Our pilgrimage to Greek political philosophy is somehow completed. Now we'll enter in our pilgrimage to Rome, and in that connection, we would like to discuss on the political and legal philosophy developed by Cicero and on his very saying that commonwealth as people's affair. So the Roman political writer who exercised an enduring influence throughout the ages is Cicero. He is mainly responsible for the introduction of the Stoic philosophy in Rome. His career coincided with the last years of the Roman Republic. He saw the Republican Constitution crumbling before his eyes due to the civil war between two powerful factions in Rome. Thus, he wrote against the background of the political failure of the Republican Constitution. For the understanding of Cicero and his historical importance, it is necessary to distinguish between the immediate purpose for which he wrote and the long time influence that he exerted. His influence was very great, but what he attempted was a total failure. His political purpose was nothing less than to restore Republican Constitution. He wanted to commend to his fellow countrymen the traditional Roman virtues of public service. Economic changes due to the extension of its dominion divided the Romans into two hostile classes: the wealthy nobles who composed the Senate and the poor commons or the proletariat represented in the assemblies. The recurring deadlocks between the two organs were broken by the civil war. Cicero wanted to shape the constitution, which he saw falling to ruins. The importance of Cicero's writing we found in his major work, De Republica. So, he was not a professional political philosopher or a leader of a school, but a lawyer and statesman who works and whose works are reflections on politics rather than on political theory. Cicero fervently believed in moderation, concord, and constitutionalism. He attached much importance to his belief in the excellency of mixed constitution and the theory of historical cycle of the constitutions. He derived both of these ideas from Polybius, but he tried to modify them in the light of his own understanding of Roman history. He brought just natural of stories from the heaven to earth. Both natural law and human equality were realized in the Roman Empire and consequently became a permanent treasure of mankind. The practical purpose of Cicero's writing, De Republica, fashioned on the model of Plato's Republic, was to set forth the concept of an ideal state as Plato had done in his Republic. The nature of justice is the main theme of both the books. But unlike Plato, his ideal state is in close relation to reality. Cicero agrees with the fundamental Greek theory about the origin and nature of the state. He believes that the state is the natural result of the social instinct of man. In this, he follows in general the Stoic idea of the state as a rational and desirable institution rather than the Epicurean idea of the state as an artificial creation resulting from individual self interest. But unlike Stoics, he views the state as a political institution distinct from society in general and further separates states and government and also places the ultimate authority in the people as a whole, with the government acting as their agent. Cicero regards the state as a commonwealth, a moral community, and a group of persons who in common possess the state and its law. So he regards the state as the commonwealth and the commonwealth as the people's affair. Although Cicero agrees with Greeks on the origin and nature of the state, but he differs from Plato in one important respect. Cicero's state is not a hierarchy like that of Plato, in which the few exercise political authority and the rest belong to it and are not of it. The whole people are concerned. In Cicero's Commonwealth, political authority, when rightly and legally exercised, is the corporate power of the people. The magistrate who exercises it is the creature of the law. The state exists to supply its members with the advantages of mutual aid and just government. Since the state and its law is the common property of the people, its authority arises from the collective power of the people. Cicero further regards the state itself and its laws always subject to the law of God or the natural law. Force is an incident and is justified only because it is required to give effect to the principles of justice and right. So these general principles of government are: one is authority proceeds from the people, and the second one, it should be exercised only by warrant of law, and the third one, it is justified only on moral grounds, achieved universal acceptance. After Cicero and stand prominently in his political philosophy, which latter formed the part of intellectual equipment of Western political thought. So Cicero closely followed Polybius in his classification of governments into royalty, aristocracy and democracy, each of which possess certain advantages, but is subject to decay that results in a corrupt form and leads to a cycle of revolutions of the simple forms. Zero consider monarchy best, aristocracy next, with democracy less desirable. To counteract the revolutionary cycle, he preferred a mixed form of government, combining the excellencies of each simple form but avoiding their weaknesses. This conclusion is that of Polybius, who illustrated it by an elaborate exposition of the constitutional development of Rome. He represented in this way the republican system of Rome as a perfect example of the checks and balances for stability and good government. Monarchy shows was discarded because the king became the tyrant. The patricians' aristocracy, overbearing in its monopoly of power, was forced to yield to the restraint of Polybius. His idea of check and balance was less mechanical than that of Polybius. However, what gives Cicero importance in the development of European political thought is his most valuable work on the idea of natural law. There can be no doubt that in the border region where ethics, jurisprudence, and politics meet, Cicero performed a work which gives him an important place in the history of political theory. This work was the development and practical application of the concept of natural law. In this, he followed the doctrine of Plato that the principles of right and justice are eternal and immutable, and of the Stoics that a supreme universal law existed in nature. So, as we found, Cicero's ideas on natural law were in no sense original but only a treatment or restatement of the Stoic doctrine. But he is mainly responsible for spreading them through Western Europe. Cicero believed that there is a single universal law of nature governing the whole world, which has arisen equally from the fact of God's provisional government of the world and from the rational and social nature of man, which makes them akin to God. So, in Cicero's own words, a true law is right reason consonant with nature, diffused among all men, constant and eternal, which summons to duty by its command and hinders from fraud by its prohibition. To invalidate this law by human legislation is never morally right. God is the author of this law, its interpreter, and its sponsor. The man who will not obey it will abandon his better self. thus it may better to be termed as the law of God, as it was expressed by Cicero in his great work, De Republica. So, according to him, law of nature is self-imposed and may be of the nature of a moral law. Law of nature is the single system of laws governing the entire universe to which all natural things have an obligation to conform. In Cicero, the very doctrine of law of nature is combined with another and of still greater importance, the doctrine of the natural equality of man. This doctrine is the profoundest contribution of Stoicism to political thought. This belief brings Cicero and Stoics nearer to us than to Plato and Aristotle. So, according to Professor Dr. Carlyle, it is the dividing line between ancient and the modern political theory. To him, equality was a moral requirement and not a fact. It had no democratic implication. And another corollary of law of nature also deserves reference as subject to the same law and as sharing in a common justice. All men constitute members of a society coextensive with humanity and transcending the differences of race and language. The whole universe must be conceived as one commonwealth of which all men, good as well as bad, are members. And this is the restatement of Stoic conception of citizenship of war. Also, we found Cicero's concept of equality of man, supremacy of law, universal brotherhood, and natural law are indicative of modernity of his thought. So, also, now we'll discuss. We found certain differences of Cicero from the Greek thought. So, as regards to that, relation of free citizenship for Aristotle can only exist between equals, but because men are not equally yet informed that citizenship must be restricted to a small, carefully selected group. But Cicero, on the contrary, refers or informs that because all men are subject to one law and so are fellow citizens, they must be in some sense equal. Some measures of dignity and respect is due to every man. So, another point we found Cicero gives a practicable state, not an ideal state of Plato's republic. So, Cicero advocated mixed government, preferably democratic, but Aristotle and Plato preferred monarchy and aristocracy. And another point of difference, we found that Greeks dealt with city states, but Cicero conceived a universal brotherhood. He had a sense of the world. Both Plato and Aristotle had no place for mankind in their political theories. So also, we found another important difference, that is, Cicero gives a new concept of natural law, which was unknown to the Greek political philosophers. Also, Greeks thought right is in source and content, antecedent to and independent of law. But according to Cicero, it is law which itself includes right and its very content and sources, the antecedent, and it is not independent of law. Also, Cicero's state dependent more upon law than that of Plato and Aristotle's conception. Philosophy and law is the main theme of Plato's Republic and Aristotle's Politics, but to Cicero, the rule of law is more important. And finally, where Cicero goes farther than Aristotle in his stress on popular consent as the foundation of the legitimate government and liberty. And as according to Cicero, liberty has no dwelling place in any state except that in which the people's power is the greatest, and surely nothing can be sweeter than liberty. But if it is not the same for all, it does not deserve the name of liberty. And now we want to conclude our lecture on Cicero. So, to conclude, we would like to take the very words of Professor Gettle, and who, in his words, expressed that Cicero's ideas of justice and natural law sank deeply into Roman legal thought and profoundly influenced the later imperial jurist and the early Christian writers, and his idea of world unity and of universal law and authority remained the central principles of political thought throughout the whole medieval period, and even it influenced most of the political and legal minds of the modern period. So, we have completed on our lecture that relating to Cicero and his very idea that Commonwealth as people's affair.